Here is my hair after 6 years of Japanese straightening. It is definitely a little damaged. It's a very intense procedure, so it will damage the hair, just like bleaching it a lot, dyeing it a lot, tons of heat treatments. We all know the ways that we damage our hair, and this is certainly no exception. It is a long procedure. Be prepared to spend a day at the salon. It begins with a wash, or they may start on your dry hair, just depending. I've had both done. Let's assume you get it washed. So you get it washed and then you get it blow dried. Then you get your first treatment layer of chemicals put into it, which does contain formaldehyde. Now what this does is that it strips the hair and it opens up the hair to change, and you sit with that in your hair anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes depending on the level of kink you have. This is what I was starting with 6 years ago. So as you can see, my hair is long, it is thick, and it is very frizzy, and I have a lot of hair. After you have sat with those chemicals in your hair, opening the hair follicle to change, you will then have that washed out, and your hair will again be blow dried. If you go to a place that specializes in this type of treatment, you may be lucky enough to have 2 people working on your hair, and that really expedites the process. So if that happens to you, get excited. After your hair is blow dried, it is then ironed very, very meticulously and precisely and with a lot of care. So as you can imagine, this part of the process can take a very long time, anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, depending on how much hair you have and if you have 1 or 2 people ironing your hair. This is the change that is happening to your hair. This ironing is what your hair is going to look like after you wash it air dried from now on. So when you think you may be done since your hair is ironed and perfectly straight, no. After that, you get the sealant layer put in, and that closes the hair back up so that it cannot change again, which makes this process permanent. Your hair will be straight until new growth comes in. So it is an intense, permanent change. Once you have the sealant put in, you go ahead and get that rinsed out and 1 more wash, and that is when your hair is wet and straight. And it can then be blow dried and tousled around and blow dried, and if you're anything like me, you may have imagined being able to do that to your hair, and after the Japanese treatment, you will be able to do that to your hair. Your hair will be pin straight. There will be no wave. There may be very little volume to it, especially for the first couple of days after it's done. Once you've had it for a few days, it will have a little bit more volume to it, but at first it will be pin straight and the Japanese style of hair. For those 2 days after you get it done, you are not to wash your hair, pin it behind your ears, put it up in a ponytail, or anything that could alter the shape of the hair, just to make sure that the hair sets it nice and straight. It's a perm essentially, so you're going to be treating it like a perm after you get it done. I get my Japanese done approximately every 6 months or so, so about twice a year to the new growth as it comes in, and in between times I'll just iron the pieces of new growth that I want to iron to have a little bit more polished of a look. The cool thing about it is that you don't need to iron every single little piece of your hair while the new growth is coming, because the pieces underneath that may have a little bit of curl, that can add a natural volume to the hair. So I don't find when it's growing back to be that tedious. My hair holds a curl really well. I can style it any way I want to, and the styles last. I don't have a problem with it falling back into this limp pin straight state. So if that's something you're concerned about, it hasn't happened with me. It is really important that you don't dye your hair while you're doing Japanese straightening. As I've said before, this is an intense, permanent chemical change for people with intense hair and people looking for an intense change. If you dye it and just add, especially if you bleach it and add another layer of chemicals to it, the hair will just become so dry and brittle. You're accepting some dryness anyway when you choose to have this procedure done. To double up on it is something that I definitely don't recommend. In fact, anytime I go to get my touch-ups done, I'm asked, you didn't dye it right. It's very important that you're honest with them and tell them whether or not you dyed your hair so they know how to give it as much care as possible while you're getting your Japanese treatment done. I definitely lose hair in the shower and when I brush it, and if you don't have the hair to lose, and if losing a small chunk of hair would freak you out, I do not suggest getting the Japanese treatment. As I said, it's a very intense process that creates an intense change. If you are not looking for something as intense, I would suggest a Brazilian treatment. What a Brazilian treatment does is that it loosens the wave of your hair a little bit, and it actually performs very differently from a Japanese, because while with the Japanese we're stripping and opening the hair, with the Brazilian we are infusing it full of protein and keratin in order to smooth it out and soften any waves you have. So when I had the Brazilian done, I noticed that my hair was softer and the new growth wasn't nearly as tight a curl or as kinky, but it was nowhere near a permanent straightening change. Procedurally, the treatments are very similar as well. With a Brazilian, you will go through 2 to 3 washes. You will get it carefully ironed, but as I said, they're not stripping the hair, so you don't get that permanent straight change. A keratin treatment is essentially a deep conditioner. I've had one hairstylist tell me that keratin treatments are the biggest ripoff in the market right now. Whether or not you agree with that is completely up to you, of course, but don't expect any permanent or dramatic change to the hair. It will soften your hair. I've definitely experienced that, and add a nice glossiness and shine to the hair. I've definitely experienced that as well, but it is not permanent, it is not long-term, and it is not dramatic. So if you're looking for something dramatic, then I would suggest investigating the Japanese. Otherwise, you may want to look into the Brazilian and keratin treatments. Obviously, I've been getting my Japanese treatment done for 6 years, so I love it. I have never not had it done from the very first time I had it done 6 years ago. So let me talk a little bit about the pricing. 6 years ago, it cost me $600 to do. It took about 6 hours. I had one woman working on me very carefully for a very long amount of time, so I can definitely understand the high fee. Since then, in New York City especially, so many more people do the procedure that the price has gone down dramatically. I now pay anywhere between $150 and $200 to get it done. That doesn't matter if it's a touch-up or not, because the amount of work is still the same. They still have to wash your whole head of hair. They still have to iron your whole head of hair, even though they're only putting the actual chemicals on a smaller section of hair. The price with getting it all done and getting a touch-up is usually the same. I've gotten it done in LA also, and it was about $150 to $200 there as well. But in the country, I have not found anybody who does this procedure, so I'm definitely taking trips back home to New York in order to get it done. One of the reasons to go back, like you would need any extra, but still. And I save a lot of money, and since I do go to a place, I'll list it down below, it's in Flushing, Queens, that specializes in this treatment and in Brazilians as well. They do it much faster because everybody knows how to do it, so other people can step in and help, and you could have 2 people working on you at once. I've even had 3 people blow drying my hair at once before, and it helps it go a lot faster. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. You absolutely damage the hair, you absolutely dry your hair out, but I love it. I think it's such a worthwhile trade-off. This is 6 years and I just couldn't be happier, and it's been about 6 months. I got it done around Christmas time when I was last home in New York. So it's been about 4 months. Correction. So it's been almost 5 months, correction, and I can see that I'm starting to be due, but I have a little bit more time where I don't mind ironing the bits and bobs I need to iron, and it's not yet annoying me. I think it would be really helpful if you get any of these procedures done, Japanese, Brazilian, what have you, if you write down the city you live in and how much you usually pay for it, because I find that the price for this varies a lot and it's not cheap. So it would be a nice resource for everybody to kind of share that information below, and I'm really curious to know as well. If you have any questions for me about the process, like I've said, I've been doing this stuff for 6 years, so I can definitely give you my opinions and my experience experience and use that to help you if it's something you're considering doing. Whether that be getting more specific about the formulas that are available, the differences between the treatments, just any and all questions you may have, feel free to ask and I will respond. And if you found this video helpful, I would love it if you liked it or subscribed to my channel. That would make my day. Thank you so much for watching and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.